Hey everyone, Lise here from Hustle and Groove. Hopefully you can see me and hear me. You may have to refresh the page, and I don't know why I'm saying that because hey everyone, Lise here. Because you won't actually see that unrefresh the page already. So kind of unnecessary. But anyway, we are here. All of the chat stuff will be happening on YouTube, so make sure that if you want to ask any questions at the end, that's where you go and do that. So I'm going to just start everything up here. I'm going to pop out the chat so that I can see it as well. And I'm just going to pop that in there. So hopefully you can see that. So I'm just going to share my screen so that you guys can see the presentation that I'm going to be chatting about with you today, which I'm super excited about. So this is pitch free. I'm just doing an entire workshop for you guys so that you can learn how to find a profitable book idea so that you're not wasting money on writing a book that isn't going to work for you. And I'll talk to you about why I'm sharing this information with you. So give me a second while I just go through this process of sharing my screen. So I don't want to entire screen. I'm just going to click on that, and then it's going to wig out. And then you guys should be able to see that. So I'm just going to quickly double check and make sure that you guys can see. So if I hit play here, you guys should be able to, yay, you guys can see what I'm doing. So I'm just going to switch into present mode. So you can't see my pretty face anymore. Sorry about that, guys, but I really want to just dig straight into this. I'm aware of our timeframes in that. So you're here to find out how to find a profitable book idea, aka how to not waste time and money on a dud book topic. Really super important. So if you haven't met me before, hey, I am Lise Cartwright. I have had many, many careers. None of them are based in being a writer or an author at all. So I quit my full-time job back in 2012 where I was working for a not-for-profit company and then in an admin role. I was a program manager looking after foreign doctors that were coming into Australia, which is where I was at the time. And I was about 30-something, I can't remember. And I just remember thinking, what is life going to look like if I continue down this path of working a full-time job? That was really where I was at. And I just wasn't satisfied. I'd been changing jobs sort of every 3 years. So really had been looking to do something else. So in 2012, I was able to quit my job and go full-time as a freelance writer. So I'd gone through this amazing program called Location Rebel and learned how to write articles for people and freelance, and had replaced at least half of my income by the time I finished work. And then I went on to replace my income fully within 8 months of doing that. So I've been working from home since then, and I've been publishing books since 2014 when I went through self-publishing school. And since that time, I have published over 26 books. So I'm very addicted to that whole process. Yes, I'm a Kiwi. If you're wondering what that is, it's not the fruit. As a New Zealander, we refer to ourselves as Kiwis because our national bird is the kiwi. Google it. They are super adorable. They're a flightless bird and they are endangered, but super, super cute. So enough about me. I'm sure you guys are just like, okay, cool, Lise. Let's move on. So let's get started. And hopefully my screen is going to play with me. So why bother finding a profitable book idea? I'll tell you why. So back in 2014, when I went through self-publishing school, prior to that, I had actually written and published a book. And I had been thinking about doing it in 2013, and I bit the bullet, and I spent 3 months in the writing process, just going through it. And then when I launched the book, I think about 10 people purchased it, and it was probably made up of friends and family. So what I'm saying here is the book absolutely tanked. And then when I got to self-publishing school, I thought to myself, I'm going to, it's great. I'm already ahead of everybody. I've got a book written. I'm just going to go through this process and get it up on Amazon. But with the coaching that I got, I went through and did like this validation process and realized that the book that I'd written just wasn't going to work on Amazon. So this is why you want to find a profitable book idea, because you want to make some money and you don't want to lose your marbles, which is kind of what happened to me. So I went through the process of going through and figuring out what it was that made this book fail. And you quickly realize, as I'm going to show you why, and I'll tell you what the book was at the end of this so that you can't go and try and figure out what it was while we're on here. I want you to stay here. So you have to make a decision about when you're writing a book, whether you're doing this for passion or whether you're doing it to make money. And if you're doing it for passion, then you have to accept that you may not make money. So if your driving goal or your driving purpose for writing a book is just because it's a passion project and it's something that you've been called to do, then you just have to accept that it may not make money. But if you do want to make money, then you need to go through a process of validating it. Without the validation, some really crazy things can happen. And like I said, when I didn't validate, crickets. That's exactly what happened with that book. And it has been my goal since this happened to make sure that no other author experiences the shame, really. I think is probably the shame and the disappointment and sitting in failure, basically, with that book. It really just was not a good experience. And I don't want anybody else to have to go through that. So that's why I'm sharing my process with you, so that you don't have to go through this process or through these feelings again either. So step 1 is to check out Amazon. So this is the first step in my sort of what I call my discovery method for validating and finding profitable book ideas. So step 1, you would go to Amazon.com and you're going to go to the Kindle store. You're going to look at the Kindle bestsellers, because we're not worried about anything else, because those are the ones that are making money. We're going to check out the categories, and we're going to look for 5+ books or more who have a 30,000 or less Amazon bestseller rank. That's what the ABSR is. And then we're also going to check out the publication date. And we're looking for ones that are at least a year or older, who are in sort of the top 100 in those bestseller areas. Now, I've got a bonus here that talks about bookstores. You can take this process offline and just have a look at the top 20 books that are in the bookstores, and you'll probably find that the majority of them are fiction, not necessarily nonfiction, because bookstores tend to focus more on fiction than they do nonfiction. But you can kind of apply this process there if you kind of want to get outside. But if you are going to be publishing on Amazon, I would always definitely start this process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this presentation and I'm going to go and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Rather than me just sitting here waffling, let's go and check out Amazon. So I'm hoping that you guys can still see me. So I'm just going to make sure that you guys are still seeing all of that. And if there's any questions, no, there isn't. So great. Perfect. Okay, so Amazon.com, here we are. So the first thing that you're going to want to do is switch to an incognito window. So I'm going to come up to here and go, file, new, incognito. So the reason that we're doing that is we don't want to sort of, influence the results that Amazon's going to show us based on us being logged in. So always make sure that when you're doing this process that you go incognito. So I'm going to make sure that I'm only looking at the Kindle store. sorry, I need to actually come down here and find the Kindle store. So you kind of have to dig a little to get to the bestsellers area. They don't necessarily make this easy for you. So you may have to do this process. What I'm doing is basically going through and finding the hourly Kindle bestsellers. So that's what we're looking for. And then over here on the left-hand side, I will click Kindle eBooks, and then that's going to give me all the categories. So let's use a potential topic to go through this process. So off the top of my head, let's say we are wanting to write a book about dog training. I'm just choosing something completely left field. So the first thing that I would do is I would come in here and I would be thinking about the type of category that this potential book would fit into. So straight away, it's not super obvious. There is nothing on the left-hand side here that says pets. There's nothing here that sort of speaks to me. But I kind of know where this might be hanging out. So I'm going to look at crafts, hobbies, and homes initially to see if there's anything about pets in here. And bingo, there is. Yay! It's exactly what I was looking for. So I'm going to dig a little bit deeper because I'm talking about dogs, so I'm not really worried about any of the other stuff that's here. So all I want to do is come down into dogs, and there is even one on training. So I'm going to come down here again and take a look at that. So what I'm looking for, remember, is I'm looking for at least 5 books that are written around this particular topic. Now, this is a slightly tricky one, or not really a tricky one. It's actually a really easy one because I want to write a book on dog training. Amazon has made it super easy for me. There is already a category on training. So I know already that this is probably going to be a really good topic to consider thinking about writing a book. But let's go through the process. So I'm looking at these books and I'm like, okay, great. These are all about dog training, lessons. I'm not too sure that this is necessarily about training. That to me looks like it might be a fiction-based book. So you just have to be a little bit aware of that. Sometimes a fiction book can land in these types of categories. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at these ones. I'm going to ignore the fiction one. And I'm just going to open all these 5 books, and I'm going to come down and manually look at them. So you would have a note and notepad and pen and make make your own notes as you go through this process. So remember, we are looking for the Amazon bestseller rank. We're looking for it to be 30,000 or less, and we're also looking at publication date, and we want to make sure that these books are at least a year old. So to find that information, you're going to have to scroll down to where it says product details, which is this area here. And the first thing that we're going to look for is the Amazon bestsellers rank. So straight away, this particular book is meeting my criteria. It is sitting at 10,000 overall in the paid Kindle store. So that tells me that this book is doing really well. Like people are purchasing this book. It's number 1, obviously, in the dog training area. But how old is the book? So for example, if the Amazon bestseller rank was this, but the publication date was, say, January 2018, then I might pause because it's only been a few months since it was published. And it could just be that they are spending quite a bit of money in terms of sending the book traffic. So I might pause at that point. But I know that it's not because the publication date is 2012. So this book has been there for a long time. So this is a good sign. This to me says that this is really good. The book is doing really well. There is, that's one book. So we're going to do the same process with all of these other ones. So I'm just going to scroll down, quickly check it out. 2016, yes, it meets the criteria of being over a year old. Yes, the Amazon bestseller rank is less than 30,000. Great. Next one. Same process. I'm just going to go through this. 2016, great. Amazon bestseller rank is 12,000. Let's just check these other 2. 2017. So it's relatively new. It's only about 6 months. So I might be kind of like, it's not a year old, but I know that the 3 books before it are. So still good to go. Let's have a look at the next one. 2011 and 17,000. So all of these books tell me that at this point of my research phase that, one, the dog training area is a good option, and 2, that the top 5 or 6 books are still consistently selling. So this, to me, would be good. I would be quite happy at this point. And if I wanted to, I could go and have a look at the remainder of the books here, and I would definitely be looking at the number 20 book. So I'm just going to open that one. I just want to see where it's at. So let's go check out, and that was 2015, and it's slightly outside that 30,000 goal that I'm looking for. It's borderline. So this would tell me that all the other books, the top 20 here are really the ones that are making the money. They're the ones that are doing the best. So it tells me that there is a market, but this also might give me a slight pause in terms of writing a book about just dog training. So I would be starting to think more a little bit about niching down. So I'm just going to switch us back into, no, I'm not going to do that. My good old 3 fingering things. So let me just close that incognito window and we'll go back to here where we were. So that is the first part of that process, is going through and making sure that you've got these 7 points in. And so making sure that you're checking out the potential categories that your book could be in. So for dog training, really that's the category that I would be looking at mainly. I could have gone back up and had a look, but then I'm looking at a multitude of books. They're not necessarily going to be just on dog training. So for you, what you want to do is start at the high level category and just see if there are any books on the topic that you're thinking about writing on, and then just go through this process. So let's see what we're doing next. So step 2 would be to look at online courses. So now that you've got the validation on Amazon, let's see if it's really a topic that has got some legs, particularly if we are looking at this from a business viewpoint. So, we're authors, but we're also putting on our business hat and thinking, okay, what would be next in terms of writing the book? What other ideas might happen? And that's why you would look at this. So I'm going to look at Udemy. There's Skillshare. Oh, we went too far ahead. And there's another one called guides.co. So the first place that I would start with would be Udemy. So again, I'm going to switch out of here and go and open Udemy. So what I'm looking for is, so we'll use the dog training example again, is I'm looking for courses that are specifically on dog training. So I'm just going to type in the search, and it's doing a whole bunch of things here. So I'm just going to type in dog training, and you'll see that there will be a whole bunch of different courses come up. And what I'm really looking for here is a combination of ratings. So I want at least a 4-star rating, and I'm also looking at how many students have gone through the course. So there's 509 ratings, so I know that at least 100 people have gone through, because over 500 people have given this a rating. So I'm looking for at least a 4-star rating and at least 100 people to have gone through the course for this to really make me feel like this is a good topic to spend some time on. So not only am I potentially writing a book about it, but potentially I could look at creating a course as well. So really, I would be quite happy if there were just 3 or more courses. I would be satisfied about that. In terms of your research phase, this is also a great place to get some ideas about what to include inside your book. If you weren't sure about chapters and stuff like that, this is a really good place to kind of get that information as well. You could take it a step further, like I said, and go to Skillshare.com and just see if there are any courses on dog training, although Skillshare is more business and craft and hobby based. So dog training may not be here, but let's just see what comes up. And we hopefully, it will give us some results. So there are also some results here. So again, I would be fairly happy if there were 3 or more courses, and that's telling me that there are. And then the last step I might do is the guides.co. So this one is slightly left field, and it's just a really good spot to check out, particularly from a non-fiction perspective, what is out there. So let me just log in really quickly. And it's just decided to freeze on me. There it goes. So, same gig again, you would just go dog training. So guides.co is, I'm pretty certain, is not going to have any results for dog training, and it doesn't, because the guides is more, you know, non-fiction based, and more, you know, lifestyle, that sort of thing. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of related tags that come up here. So those are the sorts of things that you would be looking for. But just by going through this process, it's all just, again, giving me really good feedback and knowing that this is probably a really good topic to start out with. So now that we've gone through here, the next step is to look at the keyword planner inside Google AdWords. So this is when I would just take it a little bit further and look at figuring out how I could niche down on that topic, because dog training, as you saw, is quite a large topic. Maybe I want to focus in a little bit more on a smaller niche, so that I'm not competing with those books that have been there, you know, for 2 or 3 years. So what I would do is go onto Google AdWords, and I'm going to look for new keywords. I'm going to click on Get Ideas, and then I'm going to be looking at the average monthly searches and then the competition. So if you've never used Google AdWords before, don't worry. You don't need to pay for anything. It's free, but you will potentially need to sign up if you've never logged into AdWords. So let me just log in here for you guys and ignore the red banner that's going to come up. They're trying to get me to spend money. So this is a really good tool just to use, excuse me, from a keyword perspective, and just really figuring out how you can kind of niche down. And hopefully it is going to get us in there very shortly. So let's go to Keyword Planner. I've been here before. Banner. So once the Keyword Planner comes up, you are going to type in your main keyword. So again, I'm going with dog training. I'm going to click Get Started. And so what it's going to do is give me a whole options, and you, when you're ready to, once you've sort of had a look at this and you've sorted it, you would click download the keyword ideas, and it's for the last 12 months. So you might want to change that to be more just based on the last month. And you can just choose that by looking at that, so that you're looking at something that's really relevant. So I would always change that to be based on the last month, so that the keywords that I'm seeing are what are actually being searched right now. So then what I would do is come down here and sort it by the average monthly searches. So I would have the highest, and then look at competition. I just want to make sure that that has sorted that correctly, because sometimes it does weird things. Okay, so what we are looking for is high monthly searches but low competition. And then low to medium. So just ignore anything that is high. So I'm looking, you know, remember we're wanting to write about dog training, but now we're looking to think about how we might niche down. So dog breeds. So potentially you could write an entire series of dog training based on breed. So if there are idiosyncrasies between breeds, which I'm sure that there are, then potentially doing a whole dog training series based on breed would be a really good option. So that would be something that I'd be pretty excited about. Dog names, not really seeing how that would. Dog barking, maybe you would want to write a book about how to train your dog from not barking, something along those lines. So I'm hoping that you guys can kind of see how this process really allows you to kind of just dig in a little bit further. So I'm just really looking at the low and medium competition and then the average monthly searches from there. So I would go down as far as 1 to 10K monthly searches. Anything kind of below that is starting to get pretty small, although there are a lot. So yeah, like I said, you would then click download those keyword ideas and it is going to pop up and give you, I'm just trying to see, I can't see what that says. So make sure when you're saving it that you save it as the keyword. So I would go dog training keywords and make sure you put the month to Feb 2018 so that you know that it's just based on the previous month. And so from there, you can then look at those keywords in more detail and kind of come up with almost a series of books straight from looking at this information. I hope you guys are excited by all of this information. I know that I'm probably overwhelming you, but I really just want to make sure that we get all of this covered in the time that we have. So that is step 3. So step 1, we've gone through and done that initial search on Amazon. Step 2, we've gone through and had a look at all the different courses that potentially are available on the topic. And then the step 3 is the keyword planner inside Google AdWords. Hopefully you guys are still with me. So once you've gathered all of this information, you're going to review your data. So again, you're looking at Amazon, you're looking at Udemy, maybe Skillshare, maybe guides.co, and then you're also looking at Google AdWords. All of this information combined is going to give you a green light, and it should. So what happens though if you start at the Amazon process and maybe you're not finding a topic? So coming back to my particular book where I had gone through the process, but I hadn't published on Amazon. So I'd published on my website. I'd spent 3 months going through this and I was super excited to launch my very first book to crickets, as it turns out. And the reason why is because when I actually went through this process and I started out on Amazon, nobody was searching for the topic at all. And so that's why this process saves you so much time, because if you, at the very first start of, step in this process, if you find nothing on Amazon, then your book will tank. You might find courses and you'll definitely find keywords, but you have to think about the platform that you're publishing your book on, which is Amazon. So that is the first step. If you get nada on the first step, then you don't progress any further. There is no point doing step 2 and step 3 because step 1 is the most important part. If your book doesn't get validated from Amazon's perspective, then it doesn't matter what you do in terms of launching it, and you might throw a whole bunch of money at it and it might do really well for the first 90 days, but then it will inevitably tank and die a very slow death. And I definitely don't want that to happen to you guys. So this is why I also want to chat about this, is because 95% of new authors skip this process. I did it. I had no idea that you had to go through it, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. If you're starting any type of side hustle, if you're starting any type of business, you tend to go through a validation process. And I'm not too sure why we don't do it with books. I think it's because I'm just thinking about back to when I was doing it. It was a passion. I was just like, I want to share this information. And I was so certain that people were looking for the information that I was just like, this is going to be amazing. But it doesn't always work out that way. And that's why I asked that question at the very beginning. When you want to write a book, you have to answer the question, are you writing for passion or are you writing to make money? Now, I'm not saying that you can't do both. You absolutely can. And it's always amazing when a book that you're passionate about writing is also going to be profitable. That's a really great thing, feeling to get when what you're writing about is also going to make you money. Who wouldn't want that? So really what I'm saying here is just don't waste your time and resources on writing a book until you know that it's going to be worth your while. Like I said, I spent 3 months on that very first book, and I was devastated when it just absolutely failed. So make sure you go through that. So we're at the Q&A time, but I know that I promised that I would tell you guys about the book. So the book was called How to Be a Successful Freelance Writer on Odesk, which is now Upwork. And when I went through the process, when I joined Self-Publishing School and I did that very first step on Amazon, nobody was searching for information about freelance writing or anything related to Odesk. And I within 5 minutes of that initial process, really quickly realized just how bad I had got myself, how bad of a situation I had got myself into. I paid for a professional cover designer. I paid for someone to format the book. I'd paid for an editor. And so I was about $1,000 to $1,500 in the red just on the production costs of the book. And I never made that money back. And that's just sometimes what happens. And all I can say to that is definitely go through this validation process, save yourself the hassle, avoid the cricket feeling, and just make sure that you know what your purpose is for the book, because that will just make your life a lot easier. Okay, I'm just going to see if you guys are looking to ask me any questions. I will just put question time here, and let me know if you have any. If you're watching the replay and you have a question, absolutely feel free to send me an email, lise@hustleandgroove.com, with your questions, and I will answer them off air. Happy to do that. But if you do have a question, now is your time. So I'm going to wait for about a minute. And then if I don't get any questions, I'm going to just move on and finish this up. So yeah, so that book, I did eventually rework it and republish it, but it still didn't really gain any sort of traction on Amazon. And I just wanted to get it out there, even though when I'd gone through the validation process, I knew that it wasn't going to work. It was really just a vanity thing for me to actually have it. So you won't find it on Amazon. It's been unpublished for a long time, but I do have a copy hanging out here at home, just as a reminder to always go through this process and validate, validate, validate. I cannot say this enough. So it looks like you guys are super quiet and you don't have any questions, which is totally fine. What I want to say to you is that this whole presentation has been brought to you by me, Lise Cartwright, and there's my website, hustleandgroove.com, but also for the guys at 5 Hour Academy, which you should absolutely check out. So you can go through that. Now, that is affiliate link. I'm going to put my hands up and say that, but I would love for you guys to check it out and check out what they're doing over there. They've got some really cool courses coming up, and there's a whole bunch of stuff there right now that would definitely help you, particularly if you're looking at starting a side hustle. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. And like I said, if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to send me an email, lise@hustleandgroove.com. Thanks, guys, and I look forward to hearing from you at a later date. Take care.